Whoa, boy. What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Insert clickbait, thumbnail, and title here. CGC's up to some shenanigans. So, uh, you may or may not remember a couple of months ago when all the CGC drama was going on, Matt, president at CGC, was on with West Coast Avengers and 9-9 Newsstand, and in that kind of dropped the clues that a 9-9 pre-screen was coming for books, and basically said, you know, it's pretty tricky and takes a lot of time to check to see if a book's a 9-9, so we just kind of, didn't really hand out a lot of them. I'm paraphrasing loosely here. And shout out to Ryan over at Automatic Comics. He did a video on this earlier today, which put this on my radar. And then since getting home from work, I have done some additional digging, and we have some data to back things up, and it is eye-opening, folks. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. So why is this a big deal? For the non-initiated in the comic book world, essentially a CGC 9-8 is basically like a PSA 10. 9-9s existed and 10-0s existed, but they were figments of people's imagination for the most part. There was not a lot on the census count, and it was mostly modern books, like ultra modern books, foil covers, that sort of nonsense that would get those extremely high grades just because of the nature of a comic book. Well, here today, we have a giant size X-Men 1 from 1975 pop up in a CGC 9.9. Population 1, it's not even on the census yet. It's coming up for auction. This got people's heads spinning. That is this part of the new 9.9 pre-screen that is going around out there, that has been talked about, bantied about. And why is this a big deal? Essentially, CGC is altering their grading scale, or their standards, I guess. 10 years in, or however many years it's been, they're essentially saying, we probably undergraded a certain percentage of 9.8s. Those are probably 9.9s. If you want to pay us some money, we'll relook at them, and maybe some of them will get a bump up. What that all of a sudden does is, in a CGC 9.8, there is, what is there? I pulled it up. 239 giant size X-Men 1s on the CGC census. There has never been a 9.9 prior to today. So that put a level of exclusivity on a CGC 9.8. If you had one of those 239 books, you had the top of the census. That was it. You were king ding-a-ling. Now, all of a sudden, the 9.9 comes to market. That now puts a little bit of downward pressure on the 9.8s and undercuts them a little bit. And what happens if we get a second one or a third one? Now we got real trouble. If you have a lot of money invested in high-grade 9.8s, where there's none or not many 9.9s on the market, you better be looking around a little bit sideways. I have a lot of high-grade 9.8s. This made me stop and go, when I watched Ryan's video, and I just got done watching Swaggle House's video as well. So, what I did, because I was curious, let me pull it up over here. There is a website called CGCdata.com. This is essentially like the gem rate of comic books, not as blown out. It's not as detailed. Actually, in some ways, it's more detailed, and in some ways, it's not. The data sets are kind of weird. They're monthly if you're keeping track, but then as time moves on, it drops to every 6 months. But what the person that runs this does track, and I don't know the person's name, but shout out to whoever's running this website. You're doing the Lord's work. They do break out the census by grade. Now, I looked at this information not long ago when I was assessing whether or not CGC submission levels had changed due to all the scandals and nonsense. So I had a little bit of baseline already for some of this stuff. because I was looking at over here on the left, I was tracking how many books they were grading per month to get an idea to see if numbers dropped off. So I said to myself, you could probably go in and do the same thing with 9.9s. How many 9.9s are added to the CGC census on a monthly basis? And has the number changed? And boy, oh boy. So I did this a couple different ways. In 2023, and the way that this runs is it's like December 27th, 2022 through December 31st, 2023. So it's not dead on a year, but it's pretty damn close. So essentially, throughout the year of 2023, we'll put a small asterisk next to it, they added 6,441, we're up here, 9.9s to the CGC census. If you average that out per month, it's 536. Not a ton. When you're grading 100,000 books per month on average, 536 is a drop in the bucket. Okay, let's change the parameters. When I did my initial tracking for this, I went from June 27th, 2023 through December 21st, 2023, essentially the last 6 months of the year. In that one, they added, over the last 6 months of the year, we're down here now, they added 4,137 to the CGC census. So in the entire year, they added 6,441. In the last 6 months, they added 4,000. So only 2,000-ish were added the first half of 2023. 4,000 were added the back half of 2023. So the back half of 2023, they added 689 9.9s per month. Okay, so around 700 per month. I then looked at January because since the first of the year, I have been tracking these months individually. In January, they added 645. All right, right in line. So we've obviously seen an increase throughout 2023, but the January number is in line with what the last 6 months of the year look like. I cannot go monthly. This is where the CGC data kind of breaks down. The monthly data is only there through December, and then once you get to December, you have to go back to June, and then you have to go back to December of 2022. So that otherwise I would have broken this down monthly to get a better idea of where the jump happened, but I can't see that from here. I'm going to continue to track this going forward. So January, 695. February, 995 9.9s got added to the census. That's from January 30th through February 27th. March numbers aren't updated yet. However, they are updated as of March 5th. From February 27th to March 5th, 300 CGC 9.9s were added. That is a little over 9 days worth of data. Because remember, February is a leap year, and that's probably not even full business days. I don't know if they work a full 7 days a week or not, but you had 300 added in just over a week, which puts you probably on track to be around 1,000 again. So we'll have to monitor this going forward as we move throughout the months, but clearly something has shifted. The entire year of 2023, they added 6,400, with 4,000, over 4,000 of those coming in the back half of the year. Then they went to around 600, which puts it in line, almost 700 per month. They did about that number in January. That's within the realm. And then in February, it jumped. And in March, it looks like it's going to jump again. So clearly, the standards have shifted to open up the doors to allow more 9.9s onto the census, which, if you're a longtime collector, investor, whatever, all of a sudden, this shakes up the pricing on high-end 9.8s, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, because now you're jumping that with a premium grade. This would be like if all of a sudden in the sports card world, it was way easier to get a Beckett Pristine. Think of BGS 9.5 as a CGC 9.8, think of a pristine, a Beckett 10 non-black label as a CGC 9.9, and then think of a black label as a CGC 10. That would basically be the equivalent for this. But imagine if all of a sudden Beckett went from handing out, I don't know what it would be, let's call it 2% a month in pristine 10s in sports cards to 5% a month. What does that mean? It devalues the 9.5s that are out there. So now all of a sudden, if we're getting a flood of 9.9s, I shouldn't say flood. They're still only putting 1,000 on a month when they're grading 100,000 books, but that is a significant jump. I looked their overall, where's it at? Let me pull it back up again. So if we go back to December, this is December 27th, 2022. Just to kind of give you an idea of, this is not insignificant numbers. They might seem semi-small, but this is going to have some major ramifications on pricing. Sorry, this website runs a little bit on the slow side sometimes. So as of December 27th, 2022, and I'm talking all blue labels, by the way, blue label CGC 9.9s made up 0.39% of the CGC census. I know that is very hard to see. So let me give you guys a little zoomies there. So 9.9s made up 0.39% of the overall census. The overall census was about 7.4 million books. And then if we go to the most current on February 5th, 2024, that jumps to 0.46%. So almost a 0.0, or almost a full percentage point jump over the course of a year in regards to percentage on the census. There it is there in 9.9. Now we are at 0.46%. Wild stuff out there. What do you guys and girls think? Obviously, I was a little dramatic probably in the thumbnail and the title. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do yet. 9.8s are not actually going to 0, but if you don't think that 9.9 has at least some impact on the 9.8 giant size 1, and if more come to market, that's going to have a trickle-down effect, especially on the more modern books. You know, New Mutants 98 has some 9.9s on the census. What if all of a sudden that number doubled, and doubled very quickly? One, if you were, and maybe the other thing that I would be concerned about is if you put a ton of money into 9.9s, all of a sudden those 9.9s might not be as rare anymore. There's 1 or 2 9.9s on the census for a book, and that's a high census CGC 9.8. Wouldn't be surprised if you got a little company up there at the tippity top of the census. Scary stuff. Scary stuff when the grading companies start switching things around like this. If only we had some competition in the marketplace. CBCS, sorry about it, is a non-factor. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. Curious for your thoughts and comments. Catch you on the next one. Peace.